Here are 7 candidates to replace defensive coordinator Steve Wilks for the San Francisco 49ers. As you guys know, Steve Wilks was fired today by Kyle Shanahan, and now it is time to turn the page and start to look for replacements. And so we are going to go through 7 names who could fit that bill. And I'm going to warn you right off the bat, I don't think you're going to like all of them, but you might like some of them. And so we're going to discuss pros and cons of each potential candidate and maybe why they could be a fit or maybe not so much. Let's talk about it all right now. Starting at the top, I think this is going to be arguably the most popular coach to fill the DC role, and that is Mike Vrabel. He is a former head coach of the Tennessee Titans, but he is also a former big time player with the New England Patriots. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He was a first team All Pro. He was a Pro Bowler. He's done a lot of good things as a player, but I think one of the most impressive things that he has done as a coach is win the NFL Coach of the Year award in 2021. And some might be thinking, like, well, why is this guy even available if he was the Coach of the Year just in 2021? Well, as we know, Rand Carthon, who actually came from the 49ers over the Tennessee Titans as their general manager, wanted to make some changes and they wanted to go in a different direction, which makes Mike Vrabel available. And so I know a lot of 49er fans are going to like the thought of a former NFL Coach of the Year, a guy who took Ryan Tannehill to the AFC Championship game. They would like that a lot. And again, he is a defensive specialist, kind of a hands-on former player, a player's coach kind of a guy. So I think he could be a very, very strong candidate for the San Francisco 49ers if he wants to coach this year, because as we know, all the head coaching jobs have been filled, and he could be a potential guy that could, come in for 1 year, help the defense, and then head off to another head coaching job next year to kind of rebuild that image. So that is definitely a guy that I think will be in strong consideration. And one of the benefits of him is you bring him in and you let him do his thing. And he has head coaching experience, and it becomes more of a collaborative effort where Kyle takes over the offense, Vrabel takes over the defense, and they both just do their thing, where Kyle doesn't have to kind of look over and see everything that's going on. But in speaking of collaborative effort on the defensive side, this guy could definitely be an option if that's what you're looking for. Obviously, if you're bringing in Bill Belichick, there's no telling this guy what to do with his defense. Now, obviously, he would be coming in under Kyle Shanahan, so they would have to develop that working relationship. But Bill Belichick, man, is considered the greatest coach of all time, considering how many Super Bowls he's won and the dynasty that he was able to build with the Patriots. Now, obviously, he finds himself without a job, but if he wants to coach this year, what better opportunity than to take over the defense for the San Francisco 49ers, let Kyle do his thing on offense and rebuild that reputation, prove that he can be innovative, prove that he can, be that guy, even though he is 71 years old, that can still, operate in this new style of era. Obviously, we saw what he did for 23 years with the Patriots, but it's a new era of football. Yes, he won 6 championships. He won Coach of the Year 3 times, but it's a new era of football. And can he adapt and kind of get in line with that era? Well, this would be a great opportunity for him to take over the defense and get it into a championship caliber status. So I believe he is going to be a big favorite amongst 49er fans if they could land the DC role. Now, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is he does have a relationship with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Don't forget that he basically hand wrapped Jimmy Garoppolo over to the San Francisco 49ers for only a second round draft pick. And for those things to go off, there needs to be a relationship there. John Lynch played for Bill Belichick at one point. So there are some natural kind of, I would say, an ability for these guys to collaborate together and work together if that is the goal and if Bill Belichick wants another head coaching job next year, I think it would suit him better to actually do the work and be a defensive coordinator this year on a Super Bowl caliber team than just sit on his couch for an entire year. I don't think that would help him get a head coaching job. So I think getting him would be a big get. But if the 49ers are looking to go internally, Chris Kosurik is a great option as well. He has been the 49ers defensive line coach since 2019. He has been instrumental in developing a lot of these defensive linemen for the Niners, the implementation of the wide nine scheme, and they love him there. He is a great energy guy. He's a big part of that 49ers defense that is predicated on being stout up front. So could he be a guy that could take over the defensive coordinator's role for this team? He definitely could. It remains to be seen how he would, be able to call games and situational coaching and stuff like that. But from a motivational standpoint, being a glue guy, he's that type of dude. So it would be very interesting. I would have no issues at all if the 49ers wanted to look within and elevate one of their own. The unfortunate nature, if they were to elevate Kosurik to the DC role, is they don't have Daryl Tapp here anymore as the assistant D-line coach who could take over the D-line coaching job because he just got hired by the Commanders for that same role. So they would definitely have a hole on the D line in regards to coaches. So they would have to backfill that position if they were to go internally. Now, this I think is going to be arguably the most unpopular name on this list. But there is a chance there is one more name that is more unpopular than former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley right now has his reputation is kind of in the gutter for what he has done for the Los Angeles Chargers as the head coach from 2021 to 2023. He has a 500 record in the regular season. He's 24-24 as a head coach. So pretty darn average, right? And he gets knocked for having all those weapons like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, all those guys on offense and stuff like that, but just not being able to get it done. And blowing a big lead in the playoffs is something that's stuck with him. But if you do go back to 2020 with the Los Angeles Rams, he was one of the most highest regarded defensive coaches in the league for what he did in 2020 with that defense with the Rams. So you could chalk it up to the fact that maybe, he is relatively young. He's 41 years old in regards to coaching standards. And it just didn't work out with the Chargers. Maybe going back into a defensive coordinator role would suit him best. He's kind of done it all. He's been a defensive coordinator and secondaries coach. He's been an outside linebackers coach. So he's kind of coached multiple levels of the defense. And again, when you have Chris Kosurik, who owns the D line, and you have bringing in a guy with linebacker and secondary experience, maybe that could be a benefit. I know a lot of fans probably aren't going to like this one, but hey, it could be an option moving forward for the 49ers. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this one. Yes, that is Pete Carroll rocking 49ers gear because, as you guys might know or don't know, Pete Carroll was the 49ers defensive coordinator from 1995 to 1996 before being hired as the Patriots head coach from 97 to 99, then going back to college to coach USC from 2021 to 29. And as we know him most recently is as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks 2010 from 2023. So what he is currently right now is he's the vice president of football operations and an advisor for the Seattle Seahawks. But if he wants to get into coaching, and as we know, the 49ers run a very similar style of defense to what Pete Carroll has done with Seattle, which is why that makes that kind of a seamless fit for what Seattle's defense tries to do, how they attack, and what he already does in that regard. And again, he's no spring chicken either. He's 72 years old, but as he expressed earlier in the year, he still has he would like to coach. So it would be very interesting to see if the 49ers would consider Pete Carroll as a defensive coordinator. Would be very interesting. Like I said, he ran a very similar scheme to what they did uh, or what they're doing right now. So another one could be Daniel Bullocks, who is the 49ers defensive backs coach. He's been coaching with the 49ers for 7 seasons, and this is his first full year as the defensive backs coach. He spent the previous 4 seasons as the safeties coach for the 49ers. And before that, 2017 to 2018, he was the assistant defensive backs coach. So he's been with the San Francisco 49ers a long time. He knows what they're trying to do. He knows the scheme. He knows the system. He knows the players. He knows the locker room. He knows the culture. So that could be an option for the 49ers if they do want to look internally. And then last but not least, Rex Ryan. Obviously, we know he's had success in this league. He's been doing talk shows and stuff like that recently, so he hasn't been out on the field um, for that long. He actually hasn't coached since 2016, so it's been quite a while. But he does have a extensive defensive history. He's been a defensive coordinator for multiple teams and could be a potential option if the 49ers yet again wanted to go for someone a little bit more established and been around a long time. And obviously, as you can see, that's the 7. And I don't have guys like Richard Sherman on the list. Now, I know Richard Sherman obviously is a popular name to throw around right now, but this is the way that I look at it. Richard Sherman has never coached before. And I don't know if the 49ers would be best suited to throw a guy who's very smart, very talented, and I think could be a really good coach in as a defensive coordinator when he's never coached before. And when you look at like guys like D'Amico Ryans was a quality control coach and then linebackers coach for 4 years with the 49ers before becoming the defensive coordinator. So I don't really see a path where you can just take Richard Sherman, out from, his job at Amazon and his podcast and just plop him in as defensive coordinator. I would love him on the staff if he had any interest in being defensive backs coach, an assistant defensive backs coach, kind of like what Deshaun Goldson is doing right now. I would love it. But to just bring him in and plop him in as DC, it just doesn't make sense to me without the coaching experience. So I know he's a popular name, but I just don't see it. However, what do you think of any of those names? Are any of those names intriguing to you? Do any of those names pop out? I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.